weekend Kaldheim split. I love that. You can see some of the key cards that they may be looking for to have in their opening hand or at some point during the course of the game on the right-hand side there. The one that really jumps out to me, Cedric, is actually Pelt Collector, as the type of card that can change this Gruel aggro deck from pretty dang good to, oh my God, right? Like I just got ran over by a good Pelt Collector draw. That happens occasionally.
It does happen occasionally, and that can be somewhat problematic. I mean, Pelt Collector is an ace in this matchup. It's an ace in a lot of matchups. It's funny because this deck does have some very good one-drops in Llanowar Elves and Pelt Collector. Llanowar Elves we're seeing kick off this game and getting this one off to a nice start with a turn 2 Kazandu Mammoth.
Yeah, Llanowar Elves, boy, just running end to end here, printed originally in Alpha, Magic's very first set, still relevant to this day. Just a very powerful way to kick off a game. People love talking about like Moxes, right? Oh, it's a Mox, right? That's like one of the Power 9. It's like a legendary card from way back in the day. And, Llanowar Elves acts as a Mox in many matchups where the elf doesn't really have a good chance of getting killed straight away. And that is broken. And I mean that in the sense of it breaks the normal rules of the game. And you can see that here. We see Kazandu Mammoth already on the battlefield on turn 2. And with the land drop here, it's ready to start smashing for 5.
Well, you know me. I love me some good beatdown. So it's nice to get this party started a little bit early, but we know that these Sultai and 4-color mid-range decks can interact as soon as turn number 2 with Gust, with Eliminate, with a bevy of other things. You see the Gust and you do see the Eliminate over there. But the idea here, Marshall, is just a lot of haste and just be aggressive as possible and hope that their draw either doesn't come together, which can happen to these Sultai decks and these 4-color mid-range decks, or that they've kind of skimped on hate against purely aggressive strategies with the idea of I want to be able to beat the mirror and stuff like that. So the 4 copies of Aether Gust show that Luca has actually taken this matchup somewhat seriously, and we're going to see how the games do play.
Yikes, yikes, yikes. Even with the Eliminate in hand there for Luca Magni, the beatdowns are significant here. We see the Gruul Spellbreaker come down and crash in alongside the, at least at the time, 5/5 Mammoth, as well as the Llanowar Elves crunching in here on turn 3. I mean, this is some serious beats that this deck can deliver. That was, 9 damage coming across? Now, as it stands, the Mammoth went extinct there in the middle of combat, and it is now in the graveyard, so only 4 damage actually gets over. But still, boy, that is explosive stuff, and you can see why Bernardo was attracted to this strategy. Gruul smashing, baby. There's an untapped Shockland there for Luca, who says, well, I just got to get this Uro into the bin. I'm going to gain 3 life after losing the 2. But this is some scary stuff here if you're sitting in Luca's seat. A relatively slow draw for him, and also on the draw has left Bernardo a lot of room, and he needs a top deck here of something nice and big.
Yeah, Bernardo would love to find a card like Collected Company right now, or just another additional haste threat. We're going to see it looks like a Thoughtseize, which is not that big of a deal. Llanowar Elves is going to hit the graveyard, a couple of lands left over. Scavenging Ooze is actually a fine draw. It's not your favorite draw, as you like to continue to be pretty aggressive, but all things considered, that can handle the Uro that is hanging out in the graveyard. That kind of like long game inevitability is a real pain for these decks to play against. Uro is always kind of looming over a game. So you're going to see Bernardo say, I'm going to get that Uro out of here right now, put a counter on my creature. Makes it a little bit more difficult to kill to around a card like Heartless Act or something like that. So make it a little bit bigger, but not a bad draw there from Luca.
Ooh, Extinction Event. Now that won't be able to get the entire board, but it would be able to get 2 of the 3 creatures, or if Luca decided the Scavenging Ooze by itself.
Yeah, this is a very much kind of pick your poison type situation. We're going to see Extinction Event. No surprise there. Again, can't kill everything, as you mentioned. Can kill, I think, enough things. And, a little bit of the trade-off here for 4-color is that you see the couple copies of the Triumphs, and pardon me. The mana base, well, it works because Historic has fantastic lands, but you pay some costs. Some lands do enter the battlefield tapped. So, on a turn like this, maybe you would have loved to play Nissa, untap a Breeding Pool, and have Aether Gust at the ready. Can't do that. Can kind of follow up, can do that the next turn. And that's actually a pretty good draw too. But you see some of the trade-offs and the cost that you pay when you're 4-color.
That's right. And, it makes sense from Luca's perspective, right? That Scavenging Ooze was already going to be bigger in power than the other two creatures combined, with just another couple of activations at the ready there. And especially that Luca knew that there was just a land left for Bernardo, decides to take it out, also preserving his own graveyard. But that has not left him much wiggle room here. Down to 5 goes Luca, and you see that Klothys, God of Destiny, hit the battlefield. And it's just so annoying. The ability to keep doing 2 damage a turn for the foreseeable future here is going to be a real problem here for Luca. And getting it off the battlefield is almost impossible. It's very difficult to get rid of.
Either Gust a temporary solution to that problem, but more often than not, a Gruul player is going to say, I'll put that right back on top. Thank you very much, because it's probably the best card that I can draw. So Klothys is definitely going to play a huge role in this game, was one of the better draws that Bernardo Santos did have last turn. And while Nissa has joined the fray, Aether Gust can be played here shortly, this is very problematic because there's sources of damage that are now occurring that are not taking place via attack. You mentioned Klothys. We can't forget about that Ramunap Ruins that's on the battlefield now as well that can deal 2 points of damage. So might not cross the finish line via creatures, but has other ways to try to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Luca's sitting at effectively 1 at this point, right? With the ruins plus the trigger from Klothys here, facing down some lethal damage. And I don't really see a great way out here for Luca with the 2 attackers on Bernardo's side.
And Zhur-Taa Goblin's a nice draw, too, because right now there was 5 devotion. You count the 2 from Klothys, the 2 from Gruul Spellbreaker, and the 1 from Llanowar Elves. Now you play Zhur-Taa Goblin. That's devotion count 6 and 7. That's going to turn on Klothys. And now this Aether Gust plus this Breeding Pool that's looking to block is going to have to work overtime. I do think, if my math is good, that Luca should be able to make it out of this turn, but it's the following one that I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, I think the Ramunap Ruins that you pointed out just a minute ago said is going to be the difference here, as Luca Magni can take out, say, the Spellbreaker or the Zhur-Taa Goblin or whatever, and that will turn Klothys back into sitting on the sidelines as far as attacks go. Plus, there's a block available and not enough mana to activate the Ruins this turn. But none of these are permanent solutions, and this is still Luca facing down what is effectively a lethal attack.
And don't forget, in this situation, you're probably going to have to block this Gruul Spellbreaker, right? Because it does have hexproof on Bernardo Santos' turn.
Right,
so this Gust is going to be queued up on the Zhur-Taa Goblin, which is going to deactivate the Klothys for the turn. So we're going to see Gruul Spellbreaker trade with the Breeding Pool. Klothys will go back into hiding. A damage will come across. That's going to bring Luca Magni down to 2. And you mentioned the Ramunap Ruins. We've mentioned the Klothys. It's that kind of little bit of reach that this deck has. It doesn't have a ton. No lightning bolts or fire blast running around here for you old school players. But 2 damage looks like it's going to be just enough to cross the finish line.
Yeah, Luca finds a cycle land, has a significant amount of mana available thanks to Nissa, but I just don't really see a way out, as he's got to tackle 2 different problems at the same time. There's Yasharn. That certainly doesn't get the job done here.
Yeah, and you see that top deck there of Yasharn. That's kind of the trade-offs you have, right? Remember when we took a look at the deck list right at the top? A card like Hydroid Krasis, something that these Sultai and 4-color mid-range decks, they go, come on, I need a big threat, a little bit of life gain, a couple more cards, right? Everything that Hydroid Krasis does, Luca does not have access to this week and has elected to cut that card for main deck copies of Doom Whisper, a little bit more removal. We mentioned those 4 main deck copies of Aether Gust, so no Krasis to draw to means even less outs than normal and not able to get the job done.
Yeah, Klothys has been a super important one. When it's good, it's really, really good. When it's not, it's just fine. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll get back to sideboarding. We'll be back with more right after this. Weekend Kaldheim split. Marshall Sutcliffe with Cedric Phillips kicking off the new year with some historic here. Welcome. We're happy to have you along. We're still early in the day, we've got Rivals League today. This is round number 2, Luca Magni versus Bernardo Santos. And these players are actually doing quite well. They're both at 15 points thus far in the season, which puts them mid-high. This is a good standing for them. You know, the goal is to finish roughly in the top 8. The top 4 are the ones that are looking to get into the MPL. And then the next 4 after that are going to play in the gauntlet. So this is big stuff for them, as every single match over the course of this relatively long season, this is the 3rd weekend of 7, are really going to add up by the end. Definitely going to be some room for, wow, I bet you I could have won a match somewhere on one of these weekends, and that might end up being the difference for a few players. And these are the players that type of thing affects right now. They're right in contention. You know, they're not out of it just yet, but they're also not at the top of the standings with a nice little cushion, like we see Matt Sperling, and now lone at the top of the standings as of last round, Luis Scott Vargas.
Yeah, you know, in a setup like we have with these leagues, you do start to think to yourself every single time, okay, what match did I, make a small mistake in that could have counted? Every single match counts. You don't know which one is going to be the one that counts maybe the most, because in some sense they all count equally, but there are some that you feel like get away from you, and it's like, oh man, I really needed that one at that time in order to qualify or get to the place that I'm trying to get to. So, the ups and downs of playing against all these great players over the course of a weekend, there's going to be some highs, there's going to be some lows, to be sure. And watching it kind of all unfold either here on this broadcast or on those individual streams is going to be a lot of fun here this weekend.
All right, game number 2 incoming. Luca Magni not quite able to stave off the aggressive start off of a Llanowar Elves from Bernardo Santos. We'll see how it goes this time, though, Cedric. We see no Llanowar Elves, and in fact, no 2-mana play either. So no 1s or 2s here for Bernardo. A very slow hand. Oh, I spoke a little too soon. There's a Burning Tree Emissary off the top, but still doesn't look like it's going to be able to do anything but just be a little 2-2.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty telling. I'm a little bit surprised at the keep here because the hand is a little bit slower. One of the reasons that you do elect to play Gruul Aggro is because you are a beatdown deck and you're able to get underneath your opponent before they get all set up. Think about the last game. Bernardo was able to get everything set up before Nissa was able to come online and start churning out those 3/3s that generally do dominate a game. This particular game, it is nice to draw that Burning Tree Emissary, but Growth Spiral is actually going to be able to push Luca even further ahead in this particular game, and he has to be thinking to himself, man, a Burning Tree, no turn 1 play, and a Burning Tree Emissary with no follow-up play either. I'm not exactly in the driver's seat here, but I'm feeling pretty good about things.
Well, Luca's going to be pretty happy that Bernardo kept this slow hand, because he ended up with a triple Growth Spiral opener here, which has a lot of potential to get you, ahead on mana and kind of churn through your library to start finding some of the good stuff. But you need some wiggle room. You need some time to be able to do it. And thanks to, thus far a 2/2 on the battlefield here for Bernardo, and this time he's on the draw, Luca actually has the time to do that.
I think plenty of time.
Yeah.
Plenty of time. I mean, feeling so good about this game. Going to play a Watery Grave untapped there to play another Growth Spiral into presumably a Doom Whisperer. And Doom Whisperer is not a card that I love in this matchup, Marshall, but it is a card that if the battlefield is relatively clear, we can't forget that thing is a 6/6 flyer. And sitting at 16 right now, a little bit of life to play with for that surveillability.
Yeah, it's a heck of a blocker. We see one of the reasons why it's a strong blocker. Here comes Kazandu Mammoth, which generally speaking in this build crashes over as a 5/5. So if you've got a big old 6/6 sitting there, hey, that's a brick wall. And if we look here, there's kind of a lot riding on Collected Company for Bernardo down the line, because looking at his hand as it sits, yes, it's strong. He's got 3 decent threats, but none of them will be able to actually get by a 6/6 flyer currently.
Yeah, and I think speaking of 5-mana 6/6s, yeah, you just noticed the big fella that's showing up to the party a little bit better than Doom Whisperer in this matchup.
Absolutely. So now a major problem here for Bernardo Santos is he looks on. He has no viable attacks this turn. In fact, an attack would be disaster, as the Gargaroth sits over there and says, look, you need to have an answer for me. And the fact of the matter is that Red-Green has a very difficult time dealing with a card that's a 6/6 like that. It is just a beefy creature that is going to be really difficult for Bernardo to get through. Now, there are scenarios, Cedric, where if Bernardo had one of those quicker starts and we saw Luca at a lower life total, he may be able to swarm past it with, say, a bigger board plus a haste creature or something like that and just eke out a win. But he's nowhere near that here.
No, he's nowhere near that at all. I totally agree with you. And so what's actually going to make this game even more difficult is you see that Bernardo's saying, okay, I'm going to employ that swarm strategy that you just talked about, Marshall. And employing that swarm strategy is an ideal way to try to beat a Gargaroth, and really the only way that Bernardo can beat it. And this is where Extinction Event causes a lot of problems, because we're going to try to swarm with 2 drops. Elder Gargaroth is an odd creature. Extinction Event is going to take care of these even mana creature. And now it's 1v1 combat, a Mammoth versus a Gargaroth. I'm on Team Gargaroth.
Yeah. Big Gargs for the win. What do you want to talk about now? Because this game is over. We are done here. What have you been up to? How's the year been?
As a fellow Shake Shack aficionado, I had that new Korean fried chicken item off their menu yesterday. I'm gonna up the grade. I think I gave it a B when we spoke on Twitter. Give it a B plus. It came hot this time from the DoorDash, and it was pretty darn good.
Okay, so this is I'm a little disappointed about the timing of this upgrade. So I went to Shake Shack last night.
Okay.
Got a little to-go order, and I chickened out on the new chicken. Yeah, because it was like, I really wanted the burger. I think a B plus would have pushed me over the edge, but a B just wasn't quite enough to get me there. And I'm a little disappointed now, Sed. This would have been nice to know last night, bud. Really,
hey,
would have been nice last night.
I'm one text or tweet away, man. All you got to do is...
Well, I feel like you understand at this point that if there is an update to the rankings, you need to inform me. What is going on?
I see we're passing the blame to me as usual. Okay, that sounds
now,
totally
now I have to go again, and that'll also be your fault.
That's tough. That's tough. That's tough, having to go to the shack one more time.
Yeah,
just brutal.
Yeah, I'll blame you for it.
I'll take the credit on that one. That's fine.
Yeah, maybe credit is a better word.
At the very least, get the fries. Like, if you don't want the chicken sandwich, that's fine. But the fries with the new like mayo sauce or whatever it's called right now, it's out. Oh,
the gochujang. So, yeah.
Yes,
okay. Well, I'm going to get both. I mean, if I'm going for both. Yeah.
All right. Just
by the way, more bad things have happened to Bernardo Santos since this important discussion that you and I have had. His life totals dwindled down to 5, and he had perhaps his last hope, a collected company, get hit by the last card in hand here for Luca. It was an Ether Gust and Doom Whisperer. The Doom Whisperer is now on the battlefield, and the collected company back in hand here for Bernardo, but looks like way, way, way too little, way too late here, as he's going to have to scoop him up. And Cedric, I got to say, man, I keep going back to that keep. Yes, it had spells in hand, but on the draw for Bernardo Santos, no 1-drops, really bad news for him, and it didn't work out well at all.
Yeah, if you want to keep that hand on the play, sure, but we'll talk more about that hand. And maybe if we're supposed to keep a mulligan that one in just a sec.
All right, we'll be back with more right after this. And welcome back to coverage here of the MTG League Weekend Kaldheim Split. Marshall Sutcliffe with Cedric Phillips, covering all of the important details that you need to know about the latest in hamburger technology, as well as this tournament. You're getting it all today. We've got Luca Magni versus Bernardo Santos. Bernardo kept a hand with no 1-drops in it, said, and really got punished for it, and looks like he's looking down at a similar one here.
I'm very okay. He's hovering over mulligan. There's no shame in my mulligan game. I don't want to say I love sending a hand back, but I'm not afraid to, and I'm glad Bernardo was willing to send that one back. Game 2, I definitely would have mulliganed his hand when he was on the draw. If he kept that hand on the play, sure, I wouldn't have loved it, but I could rationalize it. But on the draw against a deck that has Growth Spiral and a matchup that you're already pretty good in, and you need to get under your opponent, I would have mulliganed that hand. Bernardo, I love the mulligan this time around, and I like the keep this time around. Now, figuring out what card to send back is maybe a little bit more difficult. Here with the texture of his hand. But past that, I really do like the keep, and we'll see what he does want to send back.
Yeah, interesting stuff. We see the Burning Tree Emissary with the Zerta Goblin. Nice little 1-2 punch there. Could even get better if you can find another BTE. Deciding which land to put back is interesting because you've got 2 duels plus the Shatterskull Smashing and the Kazandu Mammoth. So you're not going to be missing a land drop if you don't want. But you have to, of course, question, well, how important is it that I hit that 3rd land on time and play a Spellbreaker or a Mammoth? That kind of thing. So let's see what goes back. It looks like it's just going to be Shatterskull Smashing. And this hand looks pretty strong. Yeah, no 1-drop, but beyond that, it's going to have a really nice turn 2. And then 3 drops for days. So looks pretty strong there. What about Luca's hand also going down to 6 here? Land, Mythos, Doom Whisper, and the big Gargs. We saw Elder Gargaroth really dominate the board in the last game, and it looks like Luca is just going to pray to find maybe a Growth Spiral, some way to get that thing down on the battlefield a little sooner than later.
Just an additional form of interaction is what you're looking for here. Remember, there are 4 gusts over there as well. So just looking for some more two mana interaction. You mentioned Growth Spiral as well to accelerate towards Elder Gargaroth. This is a beautiful start here for Bernardo Santos, though. It's going to be Burning Tree Emissary into Zertar Goblin. We'll see if the Goblin's going to be a 2-2 or a 3-3. Some players do really prefer to just play these as a haste to give some beatdowns. Looks like we're going to make it a little bit bigger, so for a little more damage over time. But more importantly here, we're looking for land number 4 for Santos for that collected company because we've got our next play rolled up. And if you're Luca, you're going to need a piece of interaction or multiple pieces of interaction with the next couple of draw steps. That said, Marshall, Gargaroth can stabilize a game all by itself. So we'll see if it's able to show up in time.
Yeah, tough opener here for Luca on the lands. Tap land. Probably next one's going to be tapped as well. Just a very slow start on the draw. But as you mentioned, the comeback potential for a card like Gargaroth in this matchup is quite strong. You know, the cards you start to worry about are cards like Embercleave and such. This is a big one, though. There's Llanowar Elves off the top of the library for Bernardo. Boy, he would have preferred that to be a land by a lot. We'll see if he can hit an untapped land here. Here comes Mythos to take out that Spellbreaker while the taken out's good. Oh, and it's another Llanowar Elves for him. So it's going to be patience here as he's going to slam. Yeah, that's right. Just one of those Llanowar Elves before passing the turn back here, said.
And unfortunately there for Luca, it's just another land. So I'm looking at things here. I'm looking at 3, 4, 5, 6 points of damage. It's not lethal right now, but if you're Luca, all you can do is just play another one of these lands. You can cycle one of those triomes on the end step, but you're not dead yet. And you know, Collected Company, I mean, is it going to miss? I think it's pretty darn unlikely, but it could. And I'm going to stop talking now because we found a Questy B.
Questy B! And that's going to do it. You can see a flooded out hand here for Luca Magni. You know, kept a land heavy hand with some slow mana and got rewarded by drawing a bunch of more lands that are also slow mana. And for you barbarians in the chat who just want to see Gruul smash, well, you got it. Although it does look like Bernardo's going to take the pedal off the metal a little bit here, said, and just play it patient by passing the turn back over, perhaps giving Luca a slight window of opportunity here. That was Languish.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, I mean, these cards
good here, right?
No, you just float the mana, right? You float the mana. They cast the Languish, you float the mana off the Llanowar Elves, and then you play the Collected Company. And assuming that your Collected Company doesn't brick, you should be able to clean up the game that way. So Languish should not save Luca here unless the Collected Company is the full 0 for 6.
The 0 for, and then also Bernardo doesn't hit an untapped land to just play the Questing Beast or any other haste creature in his deck. All right, so we're not loving his chances here.
Yeah, I mean, there is actually a world where, I mean, it's like a 1%er insofar as you cast Languish, your opponent whiffs on the Collected Company, or they have to fully whiff on the Collected Company, and then they draw a card, and it's not a green source for the Questing Beast. If all those things were to happen, wow.
I guess they could hit one Pelt Collector.
That would do it. That would do it.
Llanowar Elves is no good. Oh, but look at that. The double trouble. 2 creatures, both of them with Riot, hitting the battlefield, and that's going to be plenty enough for lethal. Yeah, exactly, chat. So you're telling me there's a chance. Well, not in this case, as that's going to be GG. The super slow draw there from Luca Magni, not able to keep up with what I would call the mid-speed draw from Bernardo Santos, but he was on the play and got the job done quite easily. Gruel smashing here in round number 2. Bernardo Santos picks up